What up, though? Welcome back to Real Talk. It's going to be Real Talk number 8. Um, it's going to be kind of embarrassing because I'm going to tell some embarrassing stories about myself here, right? And just kind of some odd things about my life and how it's going. So first off, I'm preparing to retire from the Navy after 28 years of service. Right? I've never had any kind of like real job, before the Navy. I mean, McDonald's, uh, Taco Bell, uh, Little Caesars Pizza. Man, I worked all the kitty jobs. Had a job at a supermarket once and got fired after like the first month. Right. So I'm 18 years old. I walk into the recruiting office. Long story short, I end up at MEPS, and I'm sitting there with the kind of like the guidance counselor, right, trying to help you figure out what job you're going to do. And I had in my mind all these jobs I wanted, and they kept saying that I didn't qualify for it. Like wanted to be an air traffic controller, but I didn't have 20/20 uncorrected vision or something like that at the time. Wanted to be a corpsman, but there was too many corpsmen, right? So I would have had to wait like a year before I joined the Navy, and I was like, okay. Um, and they looked at my ASVAB score and it was like, but you qualify for the nuclear training field, right? And I was like, oh, all right, that sounds nice. So tell me about it. And they're like, if you enlist now, you get a $5,000 bonus. They have the highest reenlistment bonuses in the military. You're going to have 2 years of school. So if I'm going to be in school for 2 years, and I'm only going to go to sea for 2 years, right? And they're just like, well, no, this is a 6 year enlistment. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. Right. And she was like, well, what's the issue with the 6 year enlistment? And I was like, lady, I'm 18 years old. Right. 6 years is a quarter of my life so far. At the age of 18, you couldn't fathom 6 years. Right. Sitting there at 18, you think, take away 6 years from me now. I was 12 years old. No, I can't commit to nothing that long. Right. It's like, lady, I barely made it through high school and that was 4 years. Right. They got a little shaky in the end. So I was like, well, what else you got? And she said, we have torpedomen. I said, well, what do they do? She goes, well, you can go to sea on a submarine, or I say, hey, I'll take it. She goes, you don't want to know anything else about, the job? I said, lady, I'm only going to do 4 years, so I might as well do something cool, right? Something that I have some cool stories to tell, right? So two things. One, 28 years later, right? Two, most of the cool stuff that happened, I'm not even allowed to tell anybody about, right? So I had a great time. I saw a lot of cool stuff, right? And it's time to move on. Now, for me, I'm experiencing all these things that everybody who's not in the military, right, is just like normal to them, right? It's like common sense stuff, right? That I don't have that kind of common sense, right? So I'm super excited because on Monday, uh, actually Friday afternoon, I finally got my resume together, and I have no idea how to write a resume, so I went into this resume builder program on a computer and put like all the big jobs I had in the Navy, and it spit out this 8 page resume. Right now, I'm not a resume genius, but I'm pretty sure 8 pages was way too long. Right, and I'm basically an employment kind of counselor, right? A coach that's like helping me get through all this stuff and get right. So I take it to her on Friday, right, and she looks at me, right, and I know in her mind she's like, yeah, he's never written a resume before, so he don't know no better. So she sits me down, and over the course of 2 hours, we figure out a way to truncate this 8 pages worth of, you know, knowledge and training and experience that I have into a nice, concise, about a 2.5 page document, right? So I go home, right, and I'm really excited about just having a resume because I've never had a resume before. And Monday, I get a notification from LinkedIn about some jobs that I may have been interested in, right? And the second problem here, I got the resume, but the problem is I've done the same thing for basically 28 years, right? And you'll hear me say this all the time. I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up, right? So I've been also soul searching and taking like personality, tests and things like that, trying to figure out, what I'm good at and what I also enjoy, right? And I just couldn't find anything that really just kind of stood out to me. So ironically, I get this list of jobs from LinkedIn, and most of them are jobs I don't really want to do, right? Or that I don't think I qualify for. I'm scrolling through and I find this job, right? And it's called a management talent manager, right? Manager talent management, right? And it gets interesting because basically, it's a leadership and development program, for Zillow, right? I was like, this sounds like something I would enjoy, right? And it's telework, right? So that's a bonus, right? You read my real talks from back in the day. I talked about how awesome telework is after watching my wife, and I really want a piece of that telework action, right? But I just feel so grown up now that I have a resume, right? And I'm submitting job applications, right? You didn't need a resume to work at McDonald's, right? You needed a food handler's card, right? That's all you really needed, right? And they sent you to VVC College to get that in the middle of the night. Um, but now I'm adulting like the rest of you, right? And this entire year, right, since I've been kind of stuck here living on my own in Hawaii, I've been learning more and more and more about adulting, right? If you know my wife, you know she is ridiculously smart, right? Ridiculously talented. Um, and she can have this laser like focus on things and get them done, right? Me, I just, I went to work and came home and she took care of everything else, right? So, like registering a car, right? I hadn't done it in years because my wife always does it, right? I'd come home, she hand me the little card with the sticker on it, like, hey, go put this on the car. Oh, okay, I got it. Right? My contribution is I would put the sticker on the car and then I would pull out my razor blade and cut it in a square so nobody could steal it, right? Um, you know, like getting a pet registered, right? I got this cat and I went from having just a random stray kitten in my house, right, to getting her all of her shots, getting her fixed, getting her chipped, and registered. Right? I did all that on my own, and it took a lot. I mean, I had to figure out what an ASPCA was, and you know, get her all the way to the other side of town. Drop her off, pick her up, bring her home. Deal with a doped up cat. Um, all on my own, right? It may seem small to you, but right? That's like big time adulting for me because I never had to do it, right? My wife did it all, right? You think I ever did anything to register, my dogs or, all the stuff that it takes to maintain horses, right? I'm gonna be learning this stuff, as I get home, right? And it just really made me appreciate how much she did to support my career, right? Because I never had to worry about those things. It's like now I actually have to leave work because I'm like I have to go run errands. I got to go grocery shop. I got to go put gas in a car. I got to hurry up and get home so I can feed the cat. Right. My life up until this point has basically been go to work and when the work's done, go home. Right. So she filled in all those other gaps, and I'm learning to fill those gaps. I don't want to get good at it, right? So when I actually get home, I can fill those gaps and kind of take some of the weight off her plate, right? Assume some responsibility around the house. So I'm learning how to do these, adulting and responsible things. Um, and I plan to do that when I get home. Another one of the strange things that I realized today, when I retire, it's going to be the first time that I'm not preparing to go, right? So for 28 years, I was either getting ready to go to sea, getting ready to go to sea on deployment, getting ready to transfer somewhere else, right? There's always been like an endpoint right there, right, or something that's going to happen, right, coming up. I don't know how to live a life where it's like, okay, I'm going to be in the same space. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to leave my house if I don't want to, right? I don't know what that feels like, you know. am I going to get stir crazy because, every couple of months I don't have to get underway, right? Or I don't have to get on a plane and fly somewhere. What is that going to look like? And the other thing that I talked about this in my real talk on Facebook, but this is daunting for me, and it's going to sound silly, but how do you get up in the morning and decide what you're going to wear to work? Right? That decision's been made for me for the last 28 years. Right? It's uh, well, I wear this uniform every day, and on a special occasion I wear this one, and on this occasion I wear this one. Right? I've never had to like dress to go to work. Right? Like professionally dress. I don't even know what that looks like. I was having that conversation with someone, another friend of mine who's at like 27 years. Right? He's got another three he's gonna do, and it was like, the best thing to do is like join one of those clubs where they send you clothes, right? They know your size and they send you clothes, right? But I'm probably gonna need my wife to figure that out for me and be like, okay, these are the outfits on this side of the closet that are workwear, okay, that are acceptable for work, right? That's I know it seems odd, right? But I just haven't had to do that, you know. And I'm also afraid of like I'm kind of afraid of the interactions with people, you know, who aren't in the military. Like we tend to operate from kind of two perspectives, right? When we have time to explain to you why we're doing something, we will take that time. But sometimes there's no time to explain and there's just a direct order. Hey, go get this done. Right? And I hear all these horror stories from like civilians that work with people in the military that you know, they can't leave their rank behind, all this other stuff. I'm not gonna have any problem with that. No problem whatsoever. I always understood that one day I was going to retire from this organization, and I was going to walk away, and I was not going to be Master Chief anymore. It's just going to be Mel, right? But what kind of habits have I formed by being in the military for so long and being a Master Chief for the last 5 years? Uh, that are going to impact me when I'm interacting with civilians. I think for the most part, I get along with everybody, right? I'm a genuine person, right? If you know me in person, right? I'm a very genuine person. I think I'm likable, right? But that's amongst like 90% military people. I don't know how I'm going to interact with civilians. I'm not going to understand a lot of stuff they're talking about. So that remains to be seen. Maybe I should start practicing with some of my civilian friends, right? And learn the things that you just don't ever say at work. You know, like I get the gist of this whole pronoun thing, right? But man, how does that work? I'm gonna be afraid to address anybody, right? 'Cause I mean, for 20 years, right? I default to yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I just default to it, even when dealing with civilians, I show that respect. I could be at the checkout counter and the lady at the checkout counter give me advice and I will say, yes, ma'am. Right. And now people don't want to be addressed like that. That's going to be a hard thing for me to work out. And I understand people get really offended by it. Right. I'm not trying to offend you. Right. It's just being in the military. That's how you refer to people. Right. And just the way I was raised. Right. You show respect. So that's going to be a daunting challenge that I'm going to have to figure out, as I transition from the military into the civilian world. So I just wanted to put down a couple of thoughts today about that, about the big life change. I want to celebrate that. I got a resume. That means I'm an adult now. I'm grown. I'm applying to jobs, and I'm learning how to adult, how to register vehicles, how to take care of paperwork for the pets. You know, uh, so I can get home and September 30th, I can start adulting officially and take some of the load off my wife. So again, this is Real Talk number 8. How I became an adult. I think that's what I'm going to title it. The day I became an adult, something along those lines. So as always, I'm going to sign off the way I always do. I'm just saying, fuck out of here. Holla at your boy.